This is a story about my unforgettable night with a girl I met at a club 3 years ago. Of course, it's not a favorably unforgettable night in a good sense. It was a horrible night. When I first saw her, she looked through the men in the club one by one as if she was shopping for a guy. I avoided contact with her eyes since I didn't have confidence in my face, but she came to talk to me.
I'm curious about your voice.
I was surprised, and I started a messy conversation with her, but she didn't look at my face. She kept looking at my mouth. I talked intently to flirt with her, and she smiled as she listened to what I told her. And we ended up going to her house together. I couldn't believe it all, and I was puzzled. Once she arrived at her house, she suddenly pulled out the rope and picked it up. I popped up much imagination about the item, but didn't want to break the mood by asking her some questions. I tried to settle the mood and carefully approached her for kissing, but she opened my mouth with her hands and told me,
You should talk.
I was much puzzled, but I told her, smiling, the mouth is asking you to talk, right? She then suddenly pulled a small, sharp knife out of the drawer and said,
Yes, I'm also asking you to say something very sweet. Go ahead and try. I'll score the points.
She picked up the knife and looked like she was trying to sting my mouth. My back was sweaty and it was hard to determine whether this situation was serious or just a joke. I said with a smile, Is that right? Let's warm up my mouth for a moment, shall I? I tried to change the mood by playfully moving my mouth. She firmly told me again,
I'm really curious if I caught a delicious fish today. Until now, there have only been the praise with no taste.
I faced her glittering blade and wide-open eyes, and I was finally able to understand what the situation was now. If I make any mistake here, I'll be covered in blood. I was sweating and thinking of this and that like crazy, and then I started talking to her. I never knew such an exhilarating night was waiting for me. It's my first time with a girl like you, the woman who made my heart beat hard like this. Tonight, I'll fill your ears with honey. She closed her eyes and smiled, listening to my voice. And I felt like this was my time, so I slapped her hands and her knife flew all over the room. And I slapped her face with all my strength again. She screamed and fell, and I punched her several times until she was half stunned. Then I quickly ran away from her house. Then I called the police and they investigated her once they arrived. Also, horribly, they heard a swallow faint groan inside her house. After searching all over the house, 3 men were tied up and locked in a room. However, all of them couldn't speak properly and were crying. And it turned out that their tongues were all covered with numerous knife marks. The investigation revealed that she always seduced guys at the club, brought them to her house, and forced them to say something sweet. And she scored their points by drawing their tongues with her knife. When she captured 3 guys, one of the 3 had the disinfectant poured into his mouth and pulled out his tongue because he couldn't hold back his anger, and he cursed at her. The police were shocked by her bizarre behavior and immediately arrested her. However, it is said that she asked the police and even the judge to say something sweet about her. She ended up in jail, but I was so traumatized by the shock after I met that crazy woman. Since then, I could not open my mouth to any woman I met due to the suffering from that experience. Maybe she would search for new guys after getting out of jail. She is just searching for a living toy that can entertain her. If you meet this girl at a club, just run away. Definitely.